computer. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Well, before I start sharing the screen, I wanted to talk a little bit about the title of Marla's video was Spindrift Wave. And I had never heard of that term at all. Maybe some of you boaters know, but it turns out that a spindrift wave is when the wave is cresting and then the wind hits it at a high speed and makes a mist. And that's the difference between a regular wave and a spindrift wave. So I thought that that was interesting because I didn't know. Any of you know that?
No,
No.
I didn't know it.
Ah, Claudia did. You a boater, Claudia?
I was a surfer.
Ah, that would do it. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, I think. Screen share. Whoops, what is that? No. No. There she is. Okay, so first thing I wanted to do was just go over a little bit about the process that Marla did, because really what we're studying is her techniques and the way that she did this wave. That's what I like about these YouTube videos. I pick up a little bit here and a little bit there. You know, I don't really want to be a Marla or be Alan Picard that we did last year, but I certainly like their styles and I like the things I learned from them. So here is Marla starting it out. And this is her reference photo, which I managed to do with a screenshot. And there's the, everybody can see my little arrow on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is that spindrift mist, because the wind must have been coming from this direction and just grab the wave. And you can even see it in the little waves behind too, how the wind is making all of this mist. I thought that was really interesting. This is her pastel box.
Oh my God. Pastel heaven.
It is. And the way she puts it is by hue, as you can tell, all her greens and her blues, but she also puts it by value. So all the dark values are on top of that particular hue, and all the light values are at the bottom, and your mid values are in the middle. Here in the first row, she has her gray tones. So she has her dark grays and her light grays there. She probably doesn't have any white. Now this little box that she has on top are her Girault pastels. And even though she has some of them, some already.
I thought you were waiting.
Huh? Excuse
Oh.
me? Hello?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
What was the question?
I think somebody has a
No
phone.
question.
Okay.
You know,
You might want to mute yourself unless you're going to talk so we don't get a lot of feedback.
yeah, I'm not sure how to mute it.
Who's saying that?
Who is it?
I don't know.
Hi, this is Shirley Abraham. We're
Hi,
on the road, so I
Shirley.
just have to figure out how to mute this.
Okay, I think I can mute you,
Hi.
Shirley.
As soon as I get it muted. Oh, please do.
Let me see if I can find you on this list of people here. Hold on. There you are, mute. Okay, Shirley, you're muted. So this top box is her Girault set, which somebody just recently gave her, an old set that they had. And she's kind of holding on to them and hasn't incorporated them yet. But as you can see in her big box, she has everything. You know, she has some Terry Ludwig's. This one over here appears to be like harder pastels, some hard pastel sticks. And she has Giraults in there already, but for some reason she hasn't gotten brave enough to put those in her big box yet. Yeah, When she starts her painting, she usually uses a piece of paper that is much bigger than what she wants it to end up with. And she makes this bounding box. Of course, she doesn't worry about, doing 8x10s or 9x12s or 11x14s like I do, because I want to use standard frames. She doesn't worry because she has a framer and she can afford it. So she just puts a bounding box. She's using pastel matte green paper. And the green is pretty good for that wave because there's so much green in the wave. So as it peeks through, it's really nice. Okay, and she's using a new pastel, a blue, I think it's called Blue Spruce, new pastel. That's what she always uses for her drawing. So as you see her here, that's what she's doing. Here she starts her drawing, and she made a big point of saying that it was just very gestural, and I can, understand that. She's making the gesture of what the wave was doing, and, horizontal marks and diagonal marks. And she's just having so much fun with this very, very loose, scribbly sketch, which for me is something that I'm striving to. I think that if you start looser, you can end up looser. And I tend to tighten up rather fast. So this is this was a good beginning for me to see. And here's her whole sketch. As you can see, it's really almost just a big scribble. Anybody have comments, just pop in, okay? I don't want to be the only one talking.
She also has outlined the large shapes.
Yes, she does. And here, for example, is a dark shape that she wants to put in. So she's with her blue spruce already putting in some of her value shapes. And it's just really lines and shapes and the gesture of the wave. That is what she has done there. And it looks like it's going to end up. Go ahead.
Look at the difference between what she's holding in her hand and her reference photo. Look at the difference in the colors. Because when I could only see the reference photo and she's busy going on and on about all the fabulous colors she sees, I'm going, where? Then I caught sight of what she had in her hand. I said, oh, I get what she's talking about now. So I was a little frustrated with that. She doesn't, Alan Picard is so much better at having that up there where you can see it. And so I was like, what's she looking at? And it took me a while.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's true. It's true with all.
I've
Go
got
ahead.
something to say. I've been working on waves. And what I've been doing is bringing up the photo on the iPad, but I've also been printing it. And there is a variation in the coloring when you do the two. And I use both at the same time.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Well, she does this picture that they always put up in other videos I've watched from her. Sometimes the picture she holds in her hand has even gotten cropped differently. At least here, the crop is the same. So yes, that is a little frustrating because sometimes she'll be painting something and the crop is so different than what you're looking at. But hey, it's up there, it's free, we're having fun.
I just want to pipe in as a photographer to say, a picture is not reality. It's just, it's either an iPhone's computer, decision about how to deal with color and tone, or if you're processing in Lightroom and Photoshop in the darkroom, it's the artist's decision. So.
Oh, I understand all that. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
I found it
Oh,
frustrating.
no, I know you do, but it's just,
Really
I'm just saying
colors
the
that,
pictures can be processed in so many ways, and you
Right.
can too, as you're painting, you get to decide what to do with it. So it's just
oh yeah,
interesting.
I certainly did that. I just was frustrated with her as a teacher.
Ah,
So anyway, that is all true. And that is also the reason why you loosely interpret the colors because even your computer color, what I'm seeing on my computer monitor is different what you're seeing on your computer monitor. So, you know, you have to go, oh, I think I want to pump up that color a little
And
bit here.
as photographers, that's why we color calibrate our screens all the time,
Oh,
because the screens drift. Because you have to, otherwise what you print won't look anything like what you see on the screen. So,
wow. Interesting. Okay, so let's see what the next slide. Oh, here she's starting to put in her range of colors. And I found it interesting that she's all over the place with her colors. She's putting her very saturated colors in at the same time as she's putting some muted colors in, which she makes a point of saying that for the colors to pop, you have to have a lot of muted colors. And that range needs to be there. You have to have the neutrals. And you can see some neutrals right in here, because when she's layered one on top of the other and down here, they become very neutral in tone. But she does have her darks. And I'm not going to say this is the lightest light she has, but for now, those are the more saturated colors she has. Any comments there? Shirley, I don't know how to unmute you. You're going to have to figure it out. I muted you and then I thought I better unmute you because you don't know how, but I don't know. Any comments? No. Okay. So here she's starting to add more and more of the middle values. So she's still got her darks, and she's just adding more to the wave area of the middle values that the wave has. And as you can see, she's not putting those bright whites or lights in yet. She's putting the shadow area of the wave down here. And in those, she's using a lot of blues and purples and even some pinks to have that shadow area be different from when she adds the lights. She's smudging. And I know that people always look, you know, they go, oh, you shouldn't blend, you shouldn't smudge. But, you know, she did where the spindrift part is to make it really fine and misty looking. Normally she smudges very little, but I was surprised to see that. But you know what? Everything has a place, you know, and if it's needed, it's needed. Sometimes I blend my skies for that reason. I know it just, if the painting is busy everywhere and the sky is also busy, it bothers me personally. And at the same time, I see beautiful pastel paintings where nothing is blended, including the sky, and I love them. But when I do my own, I feel like, oh man, that sky's too busy. So anyway, there is a place for it. Adding more of the wave colors. And here she starts adding her light values. And you can see right along here, the lines and dots that she does, those are very Marla. And I love it. I love that within this painting, that's so abstract the way she does it, but then there is lines and there are dots and there are layers and layers of coloring that bring it all together. She uses this side panel here to test her colors. I forgot to say that before. So before she makes a mark on the paper, she'll test the color here, or she'll clean the pastel because they get dirty, you know, when you pastel, when you pass one layer over another, that white is no longer white. So if you clean it here, then you get it back. Here she's doing her little lace work at the bottom, which she did in all kinds of values, some middle values, some darker values, like right here, this part of the foam is in shadow, so it's darker than the one that's over here. She's very careful about things like that. As abstract-y as she is, she's very careful about values and the tones of everything. And I think that's why it all works. more lines, dots, and dashes everywhere. Here we go, a lot of lines, dots, some scribbly lines over here for this wave. And the foam, she adds more spray foam here. Here she is testing the color off this one. And there's her final painting. Any comments? Any comments on her process, on how she does these things? Okay.
I guess I was surprised how she jumped around in color and values too.
Yeah.
You know, I'm from the school where you start with the dark and you stay with the dark as long as you can.
Yes.
Before you start putting the others in. So, I mean, it works beautifully for her. And it's like, oh yeah, I can break loose now.
Well, you know, if you remember at the beginning how bright this area was, and she
Yeah.
toned it down with the layering. So she's not, as you know, afraid to put in these deep saturated brights because she knows that she can tone them down as needed. Again, notice all the shadow area in the white foam, which just makes what is white, quote unquote white, more, you know, brighter because you have these shadows there. I think it's a fabulous painting. I love it. I love all the layering. I love all the greens. I love the darks. I love it. And in the reference photo here, this area here was a lot darker and she chose to make it lighter. You know, that's choice. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those are our artistic licensing. But you know, she really got the movement of the water. As you can see it here, you can feel how it's rolling as the wave is hitting, and the edge of that, you can just feel the power of it. I mean, it's extremely beautiful. Okay, so, whoops, what did I do? Did I stop sharing? No. Okay, so the next,
Family.
huh?
Look
What
at the
did you-
nice family on the
That-
screen.
That's my younger son, his lovely wife, and my two most, I'm not going to say most favorite grandchildren, but they're surely the happiest ones. They're always like this, smiling and laughing and cracking up. And that's why I have that picture there. Okay,
That's a picture.
now I'm going to share my process, and then we'll go on to you guys, participants thing. I didn't have a lot of pastel paper with me, so I had a little piece that was a painting I hated, and I washed it out, brushed it off. And I just want to share that because I want you guys to know that you can do that. This is UArt 400 paper. I brushed off as much as I could. Then I used a one of those magic eraser sponges and I cleaned it as much as I could. There's still a lot on there, but you know, that's okay. It'll get covered up. The next thing I did was I used some blue pastel to tone it. So I just squiggled some blue pastel on there. And then I washed that pastel in with alcohol, regular rubbing alcohol. And now I have kind of a nice blue surface. I knew that the darks were going to be down here of the waves. So that's why I kind of set it up that way, because I couldn't get rid of all of the darks. Okay. I used this product, Spectrafix Instagrit, which you can brush on and it dries clear, and it gave me more grit on the paper because having washed it, toned it, then all that, I lost some of the gritty part of the UArt paper is like sandpaper, and I don't know why it says that. And this puts some back in. So I put some of that on top and I let it dry. Then I
So,
started with my
that's
jet.
my question.
Yes, yes,
The Instagrit, you just brush that on
yes.
and it's wet. You have to let it dry. You can't put it on and then start working.
No, but it dries pretty fast.
Okay.
But it
Yeah.
is, you brush it on. And the nice thing about the Instagrit is that, let's say you have a large painting, but there's just one little area you don't like the way it came out. You can brush out that area, put the Instagrit just there in that in that section. And when it dries, whatever color you had underneath is still there, and then you can paint on top. So it's a nice way of erasing mistakes. Helena is requesting remote control of your screen. I don't know what that means. Hello. Can you guys see that? Am I supposed to decline? I mean, I don't want her to have my screen. Sorry, Helena. Sorry, Helena. Okay, so I started with the gestural drawing like she did, kind of. And I started with the blue spruce. I was trying to learn from her, so I kind of stuck to exactly what she was doing. I added more of the drawing, the waves in the background. This started as a 6x8, but when I finished it, I cropped it to 5x7. I put my saturated colors, my darks, more. I started some of those little lines and adding my foam. Oh, goodness gracious. And this is my final painting. And it looks too much like hers, but you know, I'm sure that if I were doing it without looking at her video, I can still incorporate some of the things I learned from her, and it won't look like her work. I turned it, and I did this to all of you, I turned it to black and white so we could compare my values and how it compares to your reference photo. And more or less, you know, this probably could have been a little darker here, might have made this pop a little better. But more or less, I have my values correct. Any comments? Everybody unmute yourselves. It's making me nervous. Shirley, unmute yourself, Shirley. I don't know how. There you go.
Okay, I found it.
Any comments from anybody?
You did a really good job on the values.
Who's talking? I can't hear who's talking. Okay, so that was me. Now we're, yes.
Giselle, why is it that you have to work on sandpaper? Does it have?
You don't have to work on a sanded surface, but in my opinion, it's the best surface to work pastels on. They have pastel papers that are smoother, or you can work on watercolor paper and stuff like that. But what really holds the pastel the best is a sanded paper.
Yeah, you can put more layers on the sanded paper.
Right.
Yeah, this side.
I tried, as Gisela knows, I wasn't able to get materials in time to really do anything because I'm a late joiner. But I did try using what I had on hand, which was Pentels and just drawing paper, and I found it extremely frustrating. It might as well have been kindergarten. So I think that it's important to get the right materials to do the work.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes.
What number is the sandpaper? Does it have any number?
This pastel paper I used was 400 grit, which is the middle grit. It goes, the UART paper goes from, I think, 320 up to 800. 800 is a very, very fine grit. It fills up faster. The 400 is, if I'm using UART, that's my favorite one to use.
That's my favorite too. Holds a lot of layers.
I'm starting to like a different new paper called Lux Archival.
I love Lux Archival.
And it holds a lot of layers too. And it's a little bit, it feels softer, but it still holds a lot of layers. I feel like it's about equal to a 400.
But they sell it as a pastel paper, the sandpaper that you say they sell like that, like sandpaper.
If you go to, and I'll send you all the links. If you go to Dakota Art Pastels, which is an online pastel store,
Yes.
they you'll see all of them there, all the different papers, and they sell something that when I first started, I bought was a sampler package. And that sampler package has like maybe, I don't know, 10 different, small little 6x8s or so. But it gives you an idea of how the different papers behave and how the different papers behave with how the different pastels behave, because, they almost have to be together. I learned my pastel was on a very smooth paper, which is Canson papers. It has absolutely no tooth. And I learned with Rembrandts, which are a medium to medium hard pastel. And it works great on that paper. But if you take the Canson and you put a softer pastel, it just falls right off. It doesn't stay on. Or if you take the Rembrandt pastels and you use them on a rough surface, it doesn't look as bright. So, things kind of go together, the different pastels with the different papers, and you just have to practice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? I thought I heard a guy sing something a little while back. Was it John or Paul? Nope. Okay, who's there now?
Website,
Dakota, like North Dakota, Dakota Art Pastels.
Oh, Art Pastels. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we.
This is Shirley.
Hi, Shirley.
Hi. I wanted to let you know from my first effort, I was using a gift I think maybe the Art Guild gave me for something years ago.
Okay.
Anyway, I found her to be too fast for me, although I stopped her, and I tried to do it. And then I just couldn't visualize like I know she did. She could see this wave. She could see the area. And I just didn't have the knowledge.
That's okay,
so,
Shirley.
I did make an effort.
You surely did, and you know what? We're gonna look at your work. Don't worry, and you'll have plenty of time to tell us what happened and how it went. Okay, so
I'm excited.
I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the participants' works. And yes, somebody says yes.
Zealous Paul, could I ask a couple of questions?
Sure. Let me
move on.
minimize this so that people aren't looking at it. Go ahead.
Okay, as a watercolorist, this was an interesting exercise. And as I told you a couple of days ago, my wife, who's my toughest critic, said that she thought the pastel was better than my watercolor version of the wave. And I haven't done a lot of waves with watercolor. So it was an interesting exercise from that standpoint. One of the questions I have in watching your work and watching Marla is, in pastels, do you ever mix colors one on top of the other?
Yes, absolutely.
The same way we would with watercolor?
Same way you would, except the difference is that unless you smudge it with your finger, they don't really blend. If you smudge it with your finger, they will blend. Like if you have a yellow and you put a blue on top and you smudge it, it will become green. But if you like that fresh painterly look, you try to avoid that smudging. So the green will come from the optical illusion of having that blue and yellow on top, and it will look green, just from the layering.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
It didn't look like Marla, did much mixing.
No.
It was fascinating to watch the way is there a limit to the amount of buildup you can put on one color on another?
As much as the paper will hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why you want a paper with a grit, so it can hold more layers.
Right.
Okay. The other thing is, if you're running out of tooth, and I do this often, you can use I use Blair odorless fixative. Just spray it lightly and it will bring back some of the tooth.
That was my other question. Is how much fixative do you put on a pastel?
I don't put any.
Just a couple of sprays on a fixative?
When you're done with it?
Yes.
No, I really don't recommend that you put any fixative when you're done because it will darken the color, even though I have found one. Oh, and I don't have the can. I already packed it away. I have found one by Krylon of all people. It's called Krylon Fine Art Fixative. It's in a blue can and it's gotta say on it Fine Art. And if you just do a light spraying, it's not gonna block it totally. But if you do a light spraying, it helps when you're framing to keep the pastel from falling on the glass or falling on your mat if you're matting it. So I will on occasion
Marla
use that. Yes, she does. And she's the one that I got it from and it works. And it does not change your color too much. Some of the others like Blair or any of them changes your color. You just will lose all your whites and you'll just
Yeah.
get this mud. It's just horrible. You
Yeah,
will ruin.
I bought
Yeah.
some fixative at Ace Hardware and it darkened the painting when I applied it.
Yep. No.
Yep.
Basically, the best thing is no fixative, but if you really want to use one, then you know the one I just mentioned is the only one that I would even begin to tell you to use.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gisela,
Uh-huh.
could you please have people mute unless they're talking because there's a whole lot of feedback.
Sure.
It's
Everybody mute
kinda
unless you're
driving me
talking.
crazy.
We don't want to drive Lori crazy. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about you guys paintings. And let me see if I can find it. Oh, here it is. And they are in order of how I receive them. Okay, so the first person, somebody's got feedback still. Mariella, I think
Yes.
you need to mute.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Helena, you need to mute. John needs to mute. Claudia needs to mute. Okay, I think we're doing better now. Okay, so he sent me two paintings and I'm going to show you both. This was the first one I got and I thought it was lovely. It bothered me here that the spray got cut off. And I can tell that what happened was he had the spray underneath and then he made this wave. And when he made this wave, he cut off, he went over his spray. Oh, what happened? I lost you guys. Hold on. Notes, participant notes. So, gosh, it's so quiet now that I thought I had lost everybody. Okay, so he decided that, well, he said he struggled because he only had about 25 sticks. And
I had 7.
I'm sorry, he had about 7 sticks, 2 blues, 2 greens, a purple, a black, and a white. And he did use sandpaper.
All the ones they had.
Huh? Repeat, please. I don't know. The sandpaper, he used sandpaper from the hardware store, which was what I told him to use so that he didn't spend a lot of money on buying, art supply paper. Of course, it's not archival, but it works. Somebody please mute. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute all somehow. I don't know how to do that.
Because then they could hear what Burns doing.
How do I mute all? I don't know how. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going.
I think it's just Shirley. If you can mute her, I think that'll do it.
Shirley, okay. Debbie, now. There's Shirley, mute. Okay, so this is his second painting, and you can see that he did make the change of adding that windy part of the Spindrift wave back in. The only thing is that he lost some beautiful things that I had in the other one, like this layering where the green is peeking through and all of these little layerings of the different colors, the purples. Well, I don't know if he blended it. We're gonna have to, you're gonna have to unmute and tell us about this, what you did different here, but it looks like it's been blended, probably with your finger. Yes.
This is John. This is my painting. And it's the first pastel I ever made in my life.
Congratulations, you did a great job.
And I had exactly, as Gisela said, 7 sticks. It was very hard. It was the consistency of old blackboard chalk. And so when I painted some white on there, it just turned out to be blue that I scraped off. The reason that I changed this, I call this my wave 3.0, was that I had a so-called tangent right there. My spume of foam blowing in the air ended at that wave. And Ingrid would have,
Here, yes.
she would have slapped my fingers.
Well, it's true. I mean, it needed to go over there. Yes.
We're fearful of that tangent. So that's, and some of that green that was over there on the left-hand side, I just smudged that with my finger, trying to soften up the lines between the 2 different hues. I see, Gisela, that you like that.
That's my preference. It doesn't mean that it's the right thing, you know. I also really liked the yellow of the sandpaper showing through in lots of places.
Yes.
So I prefer, except for the here, I preferred the look of the background of your first piece as opposed to this more smooth background. Anybody else want to jump in on this?
Be kind now. This is my very first time.
You did a great job, and I'm so happy that you tried it. And I'm hoping that you will go to the Coda Art Pastel and buy what the heck is that? And buy a sampler box of pastels. They also have a sampler box of pastels, and then you can, you know, experiment with those. Okay.
Yeah,
Excuse
Giselle, John, I like your first, I think it's the first version. I'm not sure which is 1 or 2.
This is 1.
Yeah, okay, which is 1?
This one.
Yeah.
And this is 2.
Okay, I think if you took 2 and give it a little more darker values just under the wave caps, you probably have a better painting. I like the light with the lighter greens.
Okay, we're gonna now see his in black and white. This is the second version because that was his final version.
Yeah.
And you were right, Paul, a little bit more dark in some of these areas. Darker values around here would have made the other things pop. You can also see this wave here has a lot darker values around here and here. And that, you know, helps. John, no more smudging, okay?
I learned to finger paint in the 3rd grade. Using that old skill.
Anyway, this was a wonderful try, and thank you very much for putting it in. Anybody else have any comments before we move out of John's? No. Okay.
I'd like to say that I think that was an outstanding rendition of your first experiment in pastels.
It is. It is. Pastels are not easy. I think
they are not easy.
No, I think he did wonderful. He did wonderful. Okay, so here we are with Jan Louise, and she is a photographer, as we know. So she did something really interesting. This is her whatever raw image is, but she sent me it, so I'm putting it in. This is her raw image, and then this is the image she worked from. So she did something to the raw image. Obviously, she cropped it and zoomed in a little bit and did something to the wave to make it look a little different. And then this is what she used to make her painting. And she painted on Photoshop by hand in her iPad with some sort of an instrument, and she painted with a pastel paintbrush that they have on Photoshop, trying to mimic what pastel looks like. And this is her final version. And yeah, so she made obviously the foam lighter. I can see where she kept some of the photograph stuff from here popping through. Beautiful. And this is her pastel painting in the photograph. Is that something else or what?
Wow.
That is gorgeous. Drop dead gorgeous.
Isn't that something?
Fabulous.
And difficult to do.
Very cool.
She said it did take a lot of time because she had to manually put all those colors in with this pastel brush that she had. So it's very interesting that she took her medium and tried to do, or successfully did, a pastel photograph out of it. I love it. I love it.
Thank all of you for, I mean, I can't, I would never even try a pastel on paper, because here I had the structure of the photo. In Photoshop, you have layers you can look at. So I had the photograph. Yeah, the first photograph raw just means a professional camera, there's no processing. So it looks very flat, but it has a lot of information. And the second photograph, I actually brought out colors and lights and darks, and you do some, you do something, you can bring out more of however you're going to interpret the raw photo, and in the digital darkroom. And then this one, yeah, I mean, it's totally different process than what you do with pastels, obviously. Although when we print, it is choosing the paper you print on makes a big, it's just like the paper you choose to draw on makes a big difference how the paper takes the ink from that you print on. But yeah, this is totally individual brushstrokes. There's no photograph in here. That's just
amazing.
Which that's what, I'm just learning this. And there's a million, I don't know much about it, but I'm wanting to learn from those of you.
Well, that was just wonderful. I really appreciate that you did this and that you shared this process with us. I'm going to show it to you in black and white now. Here we go. So what did Jan do here? She added up, which again, it's licensed and it came up beautifully, a lot more lights. But she does have her dark values are all still there, making the water waves and all of that. And basically the only thing I see different is the adding of a lot of the light values, which worked beautifully. Anybody have any comments on her process? Questions for her? Okay.
Jan, are you going to do this in the future? Do you think? It's really super nice. I love it.
Oh yeah. Well, this really got me hooked on waves because this is, anyway, I've been playing around more with, because you can go to and for those of you who paint too with your iPhone, you can go to a little tiny shore with little bitty waves and photograph them up close, and they're beautiful. I mean, the water, moving water is so I don't know, it's gotten me off into wanting to do this. Yeah, I've been painting flowers, but not landscapes. And so this was the first time I tried to do a whole painting of a landscape. It's very time intensive. It's a totally different, obviously a different process than photography or painting.
I love the green at the base of the rocks and in the rocks and here. And you mimicked a little bit here at the crest of the wave. It's just beautiful. It really is.
Those colors were in the photograph. Like had I developed the photograph, I could have brought those colors out more. And the dark, we do something in photography, and we sometimes call it tone sculpting, but it's working with values where you just, deepen the darks and bring out the highlights in ways that you want to artistically. So that takes a lot of time too, because you kind of paint it in Photoshop. But no, I had fun with this. I'm intrigued. It's a new thing for me.
Well, congratulations. And I'm glad that we got you on a new path.
I come to all of the plein air things because I just am fascinated by mark making and brush strokes. And this, enables me, like if I did this with their oil brushes and all sorts of different watercolor brushes, it would look totally different. So I really had fun doing this.
Cool. Well, thank you. Okay, next.
So I have a quick
Whoops.
comment. So I was
Go
just
ahead.
sitting here and I got a prompt that said to temporarily unmute, you just press your space bar. I didn't know that. So instead of trying to find your button and unmute and then mute back, you can just put your hand on your space bar.
Oh, okay. Well, that
So
sounds like
it's a
a
new
work.
one.
Good to
Okay.
know. But anyhow,
Okay,
Jan
so
Louise, you're going to teach us how to do this? You're going to do a class for us?
did you hear that, Jan? Oh,
Zoom just taught me. It just all of a sudden popped up.
You
To
are
temporarily, to temporarily unmute, do you?
I don't, it's complex. I'm a bare beginner. I don't, there are workshop. I've been taking workshops on this process. So I don't know. You have to have, maybe you have to have Photoshop to do.
Oh, bummer.
Some people do it in iPads, their programs on iPads, and I don't have that set up. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe.
who knows? Okay. So the next person up is Yvette Cotera. And she didn't have sandpaper or pastel paper. So she used a very rough cardstock. And as you can see, you can actually see the roughness of the cardstock, but it's beautiful. I love it. I love the texture that she got from that. This was from a picture that she took in Hawaii. So her reference photo, it's very interesting because she couldn't find her reference photo, was from a long time ago. So she used a painting that she had done using the reference photo that had a bird on top and just looked at the wave. But I had her dig up the reference photo so we could compare the values, and we're going to look at that in a minute. Any comments on this before we go to the comparison?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. I really like this a lot. I love the texture of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of curious, did she use the negative white value in the paper, or is that pastel, white pastel?
No, it was actually a dark blue paper.
It was a really rough paper?
Dark blue.
It was rough, but it was also dark blue.
Oh, it was? Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get that, how did you get the, I don't know, I guess you call it the texture. It's so random. Is that just...
The texture is actually, it's a very rough cardstock that I used.
Well, I think I'm using the wrong word. I'm not sure. I'm just talking about the randomness of the white values. Is that just, did you plan that, or you just go at it?
The white values, I just added them with the pastel, the harder pastels.
Yeah.
And I dotted some of them to get those.
Did you kind of tap it with the end of the pastel?
Yes, I did. I tapped the areas where it looked like a splatter.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Nice.
And
got a nice mood to it. Very nice.
Thank you. And I actually haven't done pastel since I was 12. So this was a big experiment for me.
Well, it's very nice.
Yeah.
Wow. Your 12-year-old artist showed. It's gorgeous. Here is, oh no, that's not your reference. What happened to the reference? Is that your reference?
That's the original photo.
Oh, okay. This is her reference, the original photo. And here it is next to it. I think you were in most ways pretty true to the values, actually darker, which worked very well for you. I do believe that, the darker you can go in value, the nicer the white will look. So you did a great job, because this darkness that you have here and in the background made the white really pop forward. Yeah. And made the turquoise color really pop as well. So I'm glad that you didn't follow the values on your photo. Oh goodness. Even though it's a beautiful photo, I have to say, look at that. Oh my goodness.
I turned water on the top into a sky and put some clouds.
Oh, is that what you did back there? I wasn't sure. Okay.
Instead of water, I ended up making a sky out of it.
Ah, I don't know, Yvette. I don't know if I would put clouds because, you know, you're at the, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I wouldn't, because it looks like the ocean progressing backwards
Yeah,
behind the waves. I wouldn't do anything to it.
yeah. I would not tell anybody that those are clouds.
You don't want to right. Yeah, and you wouldn't want to distract from your wave area.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Clouds also reflect in the water, you know, water surface, so it could be just a reflection of a cloud too.
It could be, but I like the idea of not having the sky back there, just having more ocean.
I'll go back and make sure it's not a cloud.
Okay. Okay. Next up is
I looked
Claudia.
at that and I thought it was just an abstraction of the spatter of the background.
Yeah, I did not think of it as clouds or sky. So, okay. Next up is Claudia. And she didn't send me any comments when she sent me the picture, but I did see on Facebook a little comment she made that she said she had a hard time because of the colors of her reference. Well, if she had a hard time, it does not show. Here's her beautiful pastel that she did. And here's her reference, which is a gorgeous reference as well. And here are the two. I think she could have gone darker right here at the edge of the wave, and that would have made this white pop out more for you, Claudia. You see
Yep,
that?
I see it. Yeah.
And over here as well, in this right hand section, you know, just a little darker value would make it pop out more.
Actually, in the actual pastel, that is a little bit darker in that corner.
Yes,
and
it is.
The photograph lightened it for some reason.
Ah, so, you know, here we go again. We need a photo tutorial from somebody. But yes, what you're saying is in the real painting, this is darker.
It's slightly darker, not as
Slightly
much
dark.
as it probably should have been though. Yeah.
You know, one thing about turning your final work into black and white and comparing it with your photo reference is a big help if you're off, because as we saw, some of them weren't and they worked beautifully. So, you know, you have to kind of take it with a grain of salt. You know, yes, are my values off, detrimental to my painting? And I think that right here, especially at the base, it is, because it would make this pop out a lot more. But otherwise, it's a gorgeous painting. And of course, we know that you do waves all the time and you do beautiful waves, and she sells her wave paintings. So we have a master in the house.
Oh,
just say something about, because that whole issue of it being darker and how it's just when you take a photograph of your work, it's just almost never going to be true to the work. And why, if you're doing G clays, you need somebody, a professional who has a really good scanner to do an accurate color reproduction and tone reproduction, because a photograph of it's never going to capture that.
That's so true. I could never, my photos of my work are never really look exactly like my work. Okay, next up is Jean. And Jean has a very bold and unique style. She does. I mean, I can recognize Jean's work no matter whether it's oil or pastel. She has this really bold style.
Absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, and she used a very fine grade pastel paper, an 800 grade. Remember, I told you 320 is rougher and 800 is about the finest you can buy of the sandpapers. And she did run out of tooth, believe it or not. I don't know. I mean, there's many layers there, but she did run out of tooth. So that was a struggle for her, but that struggle doesn't show at all. And
It was, what this was from one of those sample packs. I had an 800 grit and said, oh, let's get rid of this. And it's black. So it was a black 800 grit I was working on. I didn't run out of grit so much. I was surprised. I thought I'd run out of more tooth. I mean, but I was just frustrated with my inability.
you cut out your inability to what? Hello. I think we lost her. She'll come back. The grit that she's using here, the 800, either the 6 or the 800 is what I use when I'm doing portraits, because I do want a fine grit on portraits. I don't particularly like a lot of texture in my portraits, so I do use that. Are you back, Jean?
I don't know. I mean,
you said you were having a struggle and then you went away.
All of a sudden it went to, no, I was just having struggle with Marla and not being able to look at her reference the way I wanted to be able to see it. And so I kind of went off and did it my way.
Well,
Jean, could I say something, Giselle?
Sure.
I like this a lot. In fact, I think it's more dramatic than the one that the instructor did, Marla. This got a really nice work of art, Jean. Beautiful piece.
I love how you use the dark paper and let the dark show through.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a storm. Talking about a spindrift wave, we can feel the wind. We can feel that there's a storm brewing, and it really is gorgeous.
It is so painterly.
And it's painterly. You know, she uses her pastels like she uses her oils. And they always, sometimes I have to look and I go, is this oil or pastel? Because she uses it the same exact way. It's amazing.
I'm not sure that's good, but oh well.
Nice work.
Lots of movement there. Lots of movement. It's great.
It's fabulous.
And here it is with the reference photo. Her values, I mean, Jean's not afraid of darks. She always says that to me, I'm not afraid of darks, and it's true.
Well, I love how she used the dark paper. The dark paper shows through.
Yes, it does in places.
Yeah.
Can you say more about how you recognize the oil and the pastel? Because I do too see the style, but I can't articulate what it is I'm seeing, maybe with brush strokes or something. I don't know.
It's the strokes. It's the strokes that she puts in. Like, okay, right here, you see this little square thing? It almost looks like you took a paint brush and went, and boom, put it there. And it reminds me that it really does look like it could be an oil painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got a nice roughness to it that I like.
I love it.
She probably used a little eggplant there too, right, Giselle?
I would imagine so. Did you use eggplant?
You know it, Paul. You know it. There's eggplant over that.
Eggplant, for those of you that don't know, is the darkest pastel you can buy. It's from Terry Ludwig. It's a beautiful dark. It's right here. And it's right here. Yeah. And it's up here. And it's probably layered here over the dark paper. So, it's a very rich dark. You can use black. I'm not saying you don't use black, but if you can use something like eggplant instead of black, it's much richer.
Did Jean do any smudging on that?
No.
No?
A
Jean?
very, very tiny bit, but.
Where? Right here? Right here?
Yeah, right in there.
Yeah, I can see it. But you're not a smudger.
I don't do that.
No, she doesn't smudge. I can see where she smudged. See, there's kind of almost
there's a few spots.
Yeah, there, and a little bit here, but no.
And a little on the
So
top.
is it the aim of the pastels is to use as least amount of smudging as possible? Is that preferred?
It depends on your style. Yes, it depends on the pastelist. But less you smudge, the fresher it looks. The less you smudge, the less chance that you're going to make mud somewhere in your pastel painting. So you strive not to smudge too much. Yes.
Thank
There
you.
are some pastelists who love that. They love that very soft look, and they
Yes.
want to blend all through their pastels. So they do that. I mean, I paint with a woman that rubs her sandpaper down to her fingers are practically bleeding, but she wants her paintings to look that way.
To me, it depends what I'm working on.
Yeah, that makes a difference too.
Yes. Yes. If I'm working, again, like I said, when I do portraits, I'll use the 800 or the 600 paper, and I will usually blend, but I don't really blend with my finger that much. I'll blend with a harder pastel or a pastel pencil by stroking it on top of the soft, and it kind of blends them in together.
This is just Ace Hardware.
What pastel pencils do you recommend? What brand?
I like the Caran d'Ache, and I like the what are they called? Conti something or other. I'll send it to you, Yvette. I have to look at my box, which is
And when
already
I'm-
packed.
And if I do any blending, so if I don't use the pastel, I use those little sponges, those little pastel sponges that.
They say it's not good to use your finger because of the oils in your finger will, you know, will change it. It's not.
I use stumps now and then, those little rounded stump things. Those are good for if you want to blend or pull out a nice line.
Yeah, I'll use the stumps, and I'll use those little pastel sponges that are made for that.
Right.
Yeah.
If you know, sometimes you want to soften a line. You just want to soften it. You don't want it. Let's suppose, and I not supposing that she should soften anything here, but let's suppose she wanted this line here softer. You know, you might use a new pastel, a harder pastel, and just go over it, or your sponge, or, you know, anything, but your finger. But that's
Giselle, who's the fellow in Colorado that makes the high-end pastels? What's his name?
Terry Ludwig.
Ludwig. Can I ask Jean? Jean, do you think it makes a lot of difference in the price you pay for pastels as far as the effects you get?
Well, probably, because I tends to be the ones I love cost more than the ones I don't.
Right.
So I love Terry Ludwig's. I love Giraud. Jack Richardson is one I'm starting to use more. Yeah, I don't know. If you're in Colorado, you can go right to Terry Ludwig, and they're like $2 cheaper a stick.
Are they?
Yeah, I went this last fall, and it was like a candy store. It was wonderful, and I got some inexpensively.
You'll have
Okay.
to take orders for us, Gisela.
Yep. When I go next fall, I'll take orders and bring them back to you when I get
Bring me
here.
a box of eggplant.
A whole box of eggplant. Okay.
Yeah, bring back an eggplant for John.
Okay.
Hey, we'll all be putting in orders.
Okay.
I just started using the Jack Richardsons too, and I really like them, and they're a little more economical, and their colors are pretty great, good.
You know,
Nice.
I used Jack Richardson ones and I didn't like them, but
No.
you know, it depends. Everybody has different styles, and the way that the pastel behaves is good. You know, it's for you. If it works for you, it works for you. I love Terry Ludwig. I also like Sennelier, but only the half stick, that Paris half stick set. I love
the Ludwig too.
I love Giraud's. I love what else do I use a lot of? Oh, you know, talking about economical sets that are really good is Great Americans. They're economical. The colors are fabulous, and they're nice and soft. They're called Great Americans. They're very good. I recommend those if you're on a budget. Okay, next.
Wait a minute. I have a quick comment. I think
Yes.
that her use of the balance of color across this whole painting is just exquisite. It's just, to me, it's just masterful. I love it.
You better frame this one, Miss Jean.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was going to throw it away.
No.
Oh,
Are you kidding? My son saw it. He calls it Angry Ocean and he wants it very badly. So
Yeah,
I'm not-
do not throw that away.
keep her,
It is Angry Ocean, but it's just absolutely fabulous.
keep her.
Absolutely do not throw that away.
I won't. My son's getting it.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, so next we have Paul Reynolds. And like he told you, his wife has a battle with him because last year I tried to get him into pastels. He came over while I was doing pastels one day in plein air and asked me about it. And I said, I can help you. So he went out and bought a little set of pastels and some pastel paper, and he'd come to plein air. And, you know, I taught him a little bit. It was a lot of fun. But then his wife vetoed the whole thing. She said, no, 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 no. I like your watercolors better. So the wife said no. And he didn't do anything again the whole season until now. And now the wife says, oh, I like your pastel better. What is that? Okay, so this is his watercolor of a wave. Like he says, he's never done a wave before. So, you know, especially in watercolor, I wouldn't even attempt it, but there it is. And then this is his beautiful wave in pastel. And now, is this mist or what?
Is
I
it
mean,
what?
the mist. I mean, I think he really got that mist
Yeah.
look.
Really did.
He really, really,
I think
really.
Diane's right, Paul. I love this one.
No, thank you.
And
I
he
like
did-
your
watercolor-
watercolor too, but I
The
love
watercolor
this.
version was way up too much. I was very uptight. It's terrible. But
and
I had fun
well,
with it. It was
well,
fun.
that's the thing. Pastel sometimes
Yeah.
doesn't let you get uptight.
Yeah.
You did this on sandpaper?
This is on Ace Hardware yellow. It's a yellow. Let's see. You see the edges of it. So just a yellow.
Yeah, I can see it's yellow.
320 sandpaper.
Wow, 320. That's very rough.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
That's fine. You know, you did a great job. I love the yellow peeking throughout.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. When you
Yeah.
have a nice color of your paper, it's really nice to let it peek through.
Yeah.
Or if you do an under wash of some sort, it's nice to let that peek through because it brings a lot of life into it.
Yeah.
Well, I think you did a great job on your pastel. You have wonderful mist coming up here.
Oh, thank you.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
Let's look at it. Okay. Well, down here, this is good. This is good. Now back here, if these were a little darker, but you know what? I wouldn't mess with it because
Yeah.
it's just too pretty. But I guess it could have been a little darker, but to try to do that now, you'd ruin your mist. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't touch it. Anybody have any comments?
I've been painting a lot of conch shells lately, and his painting looks like an abstract of a conch shell.
Oh, you're right. This could be a conch shell. Wow, how funky. Well, talking about abstracts, we're going to hit Shirley and Maria Perry. Those are our last
Wait a
two.
minute. And also the movement of his waves and the water in the back is, makes me feel like I'm rocking in my chair.
It does. It does. This again is not as angry as Jean's, but it does show you a lot of movement and a lot of, that the sea was not happy that day, with a lot of big waves coming up.
Yeah. And I really like the color on that top wave of it. It almost looks like the sun is shining through. Yes, right there, that the sun is shining through to see it on the underside of the wave. That's just gorgeous.
It is.
That's a mistake.
No.
It's a beautiful mistake. We should welcome mistakes, particularly when they're gorgeous.
Yeah. All right.
John, you see
take
how Paul did not blend in the colors and left. When he put turquoise, he left it there, and green and purples. And it really makes for more excitement than when you blend it all
Mhm.
together.
Gisela, I'm a surgeon. I'm used to using my fingers.
By the way, people do use cots on their fingers when they want to blend, those little finger cots.
Yeah.
Now that you said that. Oh, goodness. Okay, well, I don't know what we're gonna do then with you, John. If you, okay, talking about abstracts, Shirley is an abstract, and so is Maria Perry. So these last two are really interesting. Shirley said she used old pastels from years ago, and this is her very first attempt at using pastels. I don't know what paper you use, so you're going to have to jump in and tell us about that. But here it is.
Wow.
Now, there's no blending going on here either. She put bold color down and left it there. Shirley, are you still with us? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you
now
hear
we
me?
can. Yes, now we can.
Okay. It is sandpaper. It's that sandy colored sandpaper.
From
and
the
yes,
hardware, from the hardware store, that
yeah,
kind? Okay.
From KLI, yes. Yeah. So yes, I got a little bit frustrated. And I think I heard someone say something about another pastel artist that maybe was a little less complicated or a little slower. But that was my problem, just kind of keeping up with it and then stopping it. And it just didn't come. I see a bird.
I see a rabbit.
Can you see the bird?
Not
I see
really.
a rabbit.
You see a rabbit? Well, there you go.
Well, what I like about it, Shirley, is the bold use of color. I like that you put your color down, you left it down, you know, you layered in some places, in other, like here, I can tell that you had some of the darker blue, and then you put the turquoise, and then you put a lighter blue. And this is all experimenting, you know, it's experimenting for a person that's never done pastels before. How do they behave? You know, how do they behave on this paper? You know, I'm trying to make it look like a wave, but if it's not a wave, it's okay. You are experimenting, and that is the way to do it. Again, I like the yellow showing through very much. Everybody that used that yellow paper, it looks great. It really does. And let's look at her values. She could have put more dark. She could have put more dark. She has a lot of middle values in there, but she has, you know, a lot of light too. But the truth is, I guess you could have used at the bottom of your wave a lot more of the darker, maybe the darker blue that you have there. I don't know how many pastels you have in your set or what kind they are. Do you
I
remember?
have 36. I have 36 and I don't remember the name of them. I'm still in the car.
Okay, all right. Well, this is, anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I wanted to say to her, I surprise, surprise, I love the boldness. But the other thing is, go paint with Alan Picard, find one of his, because he goes really slowly. And I think you will be way less frustrated and more pleased with the process and the product both.
Okay, Alan Picard, I'll look him up.
Yeah, we did Alan Picard last year, and I think it was a little easier for people to follow along with him.
Okay, all right.
I've done a couple with him, and he is easy to follow.
Okay, good, good.
But don't give up. I can see that you have a lot of promise here. You're bold, and this is good.
That's what I was going to say. Shirley, I think that this might be your medium, because I've never seen you have such a powerful piece before, and I think you should really go for it. Seriously.
Well, I have one more piece of sandpaper that I can use.
Well, maybe we'll want to do it at plein air on Wednesday.
Well, on Wednesday, we'll see. I doubt it, but.
Okay. Is Maria Puri here? I don't know if she actually made the meeting. I think she works today. But hers,
does.
okay, hers is also very abstract and not afraid of color. If Jean is not afraid of dark, Maria Perry is not afraid of color. I can see her strokes, her mark making. There's no blending going on here that I can tell. I can't tell. The paper appears to have been an orangey color, so it might also have been an orange sandpaper color. And the only problem I see here is that she doesn't have enough lights. She definitely needs more lights around here where her wave is crashing. Interesting part about it is that they always say it doesn't matter what colors you use, what hues you use, as long as your values are correct. And as you can tell, you know, she used a lot of reds and yellows. And when you look at it in black and white, you can tell that there's, you know, they're your middle values. And what she's lacking is her light values. Any comments on her work? Hello. Nobody wants to dare comment. Okay. So any of you that did not do any work, are you going to be doing some waves? Yeah.
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 Yeah, we'll try it.
Okay.
I am inspired.
Okay. Last year you said you were inspired too, and I never saw that tree. I waited for that tree, Mrs. Daly. I waited and waited and never came.
You know, I think I finished that.
Well, you didn't send it to me. I asked you to send it to me.
My bad.
Anybody that is inspired now,
I'm definitely inspired.
Anybody
And
who's inspired in a wave, can you please email them to me? I don't care if it's a month or two from now, just because.
Well, I want to show this wave I made, this design in watercolor and pen for a.
Let me stop sharing so we can see you big. Hold on. Hold on. Stop share. Okay.
This is one I made for as a design for a mosaic commission work.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And then I made it's in watercolor and pen. And then I made another mosaic for myself, just this part of the breaking of the wave. And that's why I wanted to see the process of Pastel, because although Claudia several years ago shared with me and my students a workshop and really was very illustrated, but I didn't practice myself with pastels since then. So the change of mind from watercolor to pastel, it has helped me a lot, this workshop, to see the work of other artists, how the interpretation of the instructor has been. And while I was listening, I was drawing this one, but really like sketching.
Wow.
Wow.
Which I use some of the purples and blues. So, but I understand now how the paper is important, because this is a Canson paper, but very like a grayish tone. And it really doesn't, I didn't have white in my pastel because I don't have a big, only pastels that I use to teach kids in school or summer camp. So my pastels are not, is Prismacolor. So sometimes I feel.
And the Canson paper doesn't have a lot of grit, so it doesn't hold a lot of layers.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a smudge, and I didn't smudge it at all. So I now see the importance of the paper. So I'm gonna get to that, the Cora art papers to check.
You can also find the UArt 400 on Amazon as well.
400 on Amazon?
UArt.
Or Blick or any
yeah.
of the art stores have them. Yes,
Okay.
Deborah. That's Deb.
Yeah, so that's my experience today, that finding out how important the paper is, or maybe try the sandpaper that some of you have been trying, those, the yellow that I have a lot because I sand my wood with that. So
there you go. You have a paper.
Yeah, it's experimenting and think and practicing, but I do a lot of waves in general. My husband used to be a surfer, and we used to live in a surfer beach in Peru. So we have a lot of pictures of that, and I like that aqua color, the teal, and the reflection of the sun through the water. So I'll try the pastels to get to that point. Well, thank you everybody, because I learned a lot. Thanks for sharing.
Your painting is gorgeous.
I
that you
think
just did. That's amazing.
Deb Holler wants to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's there's such a great group. It's really, it's hard to kind of break in, but I just wanted to show Gisela that this is my Pentel, okay, which probably nobody's used Pentel since kindergarten. And I found them very, I don't know, a struggle to use, but I just wanted Gisela to know that I did. Yeah. And yeah, see, it doesn't, you really can't.
No, I can see. Wow.
Yeah, you can sort of see. So, and I did a couple of the Pentels, did that one, and then I did this one too, which is also similar. I don't, yeah, so I did it, and I didn't, I did have a reference wave that I found on the web, but I wanted to really thank you for this, because I found it so much fun, really, to really even just look at waves online and kind of explore the color and the energy of the wave, with the pastels. And I did use my fingers because I got into that kind of energy of the curl of the wave. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You can also do underpaintings for your colors. You can do watercolor. Some of the papers will accept a water base or a really rough watercolor paper. You can actually do a watercolor and then put the pastels above them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a master pastelist named Richard McKinley, and that's one of the things that he does a lot. So if you are a watercolorist trying to go into the pastels, you might want to try that, and it might be easier for you.
I found out one thing I really got out of this, another thing I really got, was using colored paper for a background. I'd never imagined that doing that with pastels, but I'd like to experiment more with colored paper as a background.
Some of the rough papers come colored, but if they don't, you can always put pastel
Sandpaper.
down, wash it in with rubbing alcohol, and now you've toned your paper. And when it dries, it's just like already done for you.
Learning so much.
You just sat back down. I don't think you heard me. You can do a watercolor underpainting and then put pastels on top of them.
Yes.
Some of the pastels papers accept an underpainting.
Yes.
So yeah.
Can I say something?
I think Mickey's next. Hold on. Mickey's been trying to say something.
I've done pastel on flowers and birds, but I've never done waves. So this is mine, and there's a lot of blending in here.
I see that. Very nice. So why didn't you mail it to me?
I don't have to do that much blending.
That's right. Keep it fresher. Keep it a little fresher.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get it in and say that sometimes there's too much blending.
I'm so glad you did it, and I'm glad you tried it.
Yes.
Ingrid?
Well, I just wanted to elaborate on what Claudia did. And I just realized I had done a watercolor with a pastel on top. And I don't know if it will show up because it's framed, but maybe it won't. It's glass, right? No, you can't see it.
No, not too well.
Sorry, but I wanted to show that I did a water scene at plein air, and I had actually some pastels with me, and I put it on top. So,
very good. There you go.
But she's absolutely right. It can be done.
Paul?
Yeah, I was going to ask Ingrid a question. She's the only
Yes.
watercolorist I know here besides myself and maybe John. But are there techniques, do you think, in pastel, Ingrid, that can be applied to watercolors?
Well, I'm very interested in the fact that I like to put the density, without smudging. I don't want to smudge it into my watercolor, but I'm kind of like Jean in her approach with the painterly strokes that she was doing, which was a really dramatic painting. So I wanted to, with my watercolor, enhance and deepen the color because I couldn't get rich enough saturation.
Yeah.
So by adding the depth of the pastel in very selected areas, I was starting to create a hybrid of a painting that was beyond a watercolor. And it's some area that I really would like to explore. So I can't say what the technique is yet, but I do know that it's not the first time I've done it. And I found that I usually been using the oil pastels on top of the watercolor versus a chalk pastel. So that's the only thing I
So
wanted to.
you have no problem mixing watercolor and pastels?
No,
Whatever
no.
works.
And normally I put my watercolor down first and then I put my oil on top just to give the roughness and the texture additional to the paper.
So you were talking about adding oil pastel, not soft pastel.
Correct.
That's a very different medium.
Oh, you're not talking, oh, you're talking about oil pastels.
Yeah, oil pastels are very different from soft pastels.
So you'd never mix conventional pastel with watercolor then?
Yes,
Not really, because I have a funny feeling that the chalkiness would probably blend in with the water, I would assume, but I haven't really experimented with it. It just so happens that I just been given oil pastels as a child. And I just happen to have some here. So that's what I used. Yeah. Anyways, sorry you couldn't see it, but that was okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
sharing
you.
that. Anybody else have some burning issues before we sign off? Well, this was a lot of fun, and I
just want to say thank you, Giselle. This was it was fantastic.
Yes,
Thank you so
very
much.
It was very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for showing up and for doing some of the work and letting us share your work and, be brave enough to do that because, you're throwing it out there for people to talk about it. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if anybody does any, send them to me, please. I want to see them. Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.